If you want to improve, you have to be content to be thought foolish and stupid. If you think about that quote right there for a second, think about how true that is. Because I'm not really a quote guy. Just so you guys know, I'm not going to throw out a bunch of quotes to you today. I don't read quote books. But this one right here, my wife and I like, because it's one that's so true. As an entrepreneur, which many of you in here will be and are, you have to realize that you have to be content to have people to say, boy, that's a really stupid idea. Or, wow, that is really a foolish way to go. And if you're not content with that, you should get up and walk out, because you shouldn't start a business. There are going to be a line of critics for every single business that you have, idea that you have, to say, don't do it, it's too risky. But as an entrepreneur for the last 17 years, I've had to become content on realizing that my ideas probably are foolish to many, but unless I try it, I'm not going to be satisfied. My name is Andrew Smith, and I am the founder and CEO of the 4 Foods Group. This is a company that I'm very passionate about, obviously because it's the most recent that I'm working on. But it's something that's very unique also in the marketplace, and I can't wait to share it with you and explain to you guys maybe some of the pit stops and roadblocks that I've been up against to try to get the company to where it is today. But before we get into that, I think it's always good to listen to someone that you kind of know, okay? So I'm going to give you just a real quick 2-minute snippet on who I am. Who's the dude with the long hair in front of you? I did used to live on campus. As soon as I got off of campus, I grew my hair out. I never had facial hair. I could never grow facial hair. So that's never been a problem. So I did this instead of this. But I am actually originally from Chicago. I had to put a picture of Chicago up because Chicago is the greatest city in America. Who is from Chicago? You guys all get A's. Chicago is the greatest city in America. And I was born and raised right there in the city. My dad was a dentist. I had actually a practice right on Michigan Avenue. My claim to fame is that he had a dental practice right next to Michael Jordan's office. So as a young bum, I used to sit there in the elevator waiting for him to come and get up into his office, and it was the coolest thing. But either way, I was from Chicago, left there when I was 17 when I graduated high school. It's not because I was smart. It was because my parents started me young. And I came out to Utah. I did jump around. I want everybody to know that. A true entrepreneur right here. I did a sted at Utah Valley State College while it was a state college then. Did my season here, and then I actually went on a mission to the Dominican Republic. It's probably the closest thing to hell, just so everybody knows. It's hot. It's on the equator. It's beautiful. It's tropical, but it's a third world country, and it borders Haiti. So I definitely have seen the other side, and that is poverty and what poverty can do to a society and to an economy. And so I had a great experience there. I came back and I actually finished my education at University of Phoenix because I had started my career as an entrepreneur at a very young age, at the age of 23. So I did that at night. I had just recently been married to a southern gal from Dothan, Alabama. And if any of you can see the difference between, I'm just kidding. Chicago is much prettier than Dothan, but the prettiest thing out of Dothan was my wife, Shauna, here, and I stole her out of that. So we are married, have 2 boys, as Scott said, one that's 14 years old, thinking that every 20-year-old girl is fair game. And his name is Christian. I have a little boy, 8 years old, that's Tobin. And we have another man in my wife's life. It's our black lab, Mac. So that's me in a nutshell. We started the 4 Foods Group 5.5 years ago, and we have been married 15 years this Friday. And yes, I have got a really good gift for it, so don't worry. My muse is fishing. If you can believe it, every single entrepreneur, I believe, has to have their muse. And it's fishing for me. It doesn't have to be catching. It can just be standing in a river fishing. But what I really like is I like fast cars. Who likes fast cars in here? Then you all have to come over to my warehouse and we'll drive fast cars because that's my muse. Getting from point A to point B as quick as possible and safely is the best thing you can do in life. So I think the Europeans have definitely got it nailed. So that's a little bit about me. I am an entrepreneur. But what in the world am I an entrepreneur for? What is an entrepreneur? If someone could give me another word or another phrase for what an entrepreneur is, what is an entrepreneur? And don't be bashful. Come on, you guys are entrepreneurs. You're supposed to speak up.
Problem solver.
Okay, problem solver. Very good. Innovator. What else? Creator, absolutely. Risk taker. Opportunist. Okay, all excellent. If you guys actually want to look at what an entrepreneur is, it's an individual that compiles and organizes data and information, but takes the largest, greatest financial risk to do so. So if you think about it, are we foolish and stupid for being entrepreneurs? Well, sure, because we're taking more than normal or more than average financial risk to start our businesses. So, when we talk about why, I'm going to go into some of the things that you guys should know that you probably already know, but I'm going to say it anyway. And that is, of every business, you have about 8 of them that are going to go out of business out of every 10, which means you have 80% possibility of it failing. If someone walked into my office right now and said, Andrew, I need $500,000 to invest into a new inventory management system for our warehouse, can I get it? And I say, well, what's the possibility of that succeeding? And they said, maybe 15 to 20%. I'd say, get out of my office. Go figure something else out, right? But when we start as an entrepreneur, that's the risk that we're taking. You have such a minute possibility of actually succeeding at this. So what in the world are we doing, right? In addition to that, competition is fierce. It is fierce. If anybody wants to know how fierce it is, I'm sure you guys have probably heard from other people that have come and spoke, and I know many of them have come and spoke personally. I ran a technology company. If you want to know fierce competition, stand in a booth at a trade show where this is you, and you're saying, oh, this is what we have, and this is why it's so good, and our product's differentiated because of this. And the dude right here is going, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. His software sucks. Mine's great. It's that fierce. And what you have to do is figure out, how do you separate yourself from the competition? How do you make it so that people don't want them and they want you instead? So competition is fierce. In addition, stress is maxed out. There's going to be times where you really literally want to pick up and maybe do this. I don't know if I'd do this. I'd probably just pick up my computer and throw it at the wall. But the bottom line is, stress is maxed out when you're an entrepreneur. Now, the thing that I think is probably the hardest about being an entrepreneur, and then we're going to get into some of the good stuff, is that everybody is going to look to you, the business leader, the owner, the founder, the CEO. They're going to look to you for all of the answers. You're the source of all, right? No, you just had the idea. You had the wits to start it, possibly. But when you have an office full of people, whether it's 2 employees or 40 or 400 employees, you still have to know everything. And that's a lot of pressure, more pressure than I think that you realize until you're in that position. And so those are the things that we're up against when we're an entrepreneur. And if you go down this road that you guys are going to go down, you don't survive, guess what you get to be coined as the rest of your life? A failure, right? You're going to be a big fat failure. It's going to be on your CV. It's going to be something that you're going to have to talk about the rest of your days. So those are all the things that you're faced with when you're an entrepreneur. But me as an entrepreneur, I say bring it on. Why not? Because I'm content with that, all right? So let's get into it. Why would you want to start a business? If I could go back in time, which I wish I could, but you can't, and fix all the things that you did wrong, the thing that I would probably do more than anything is I would want someone as a mentor to stand in front of me like I am today with you, or sit in front of me and say, Andrew, these are the things you have to be aware of. These are the things that you have to avoid. These are the things that are going to be hard. This is how you get over those barriers. And I did not have that mentor. I think a program like this is invaluable, especially for individuals like you that want to start businesses, and to have a leader like you do, and Scott and others that are willing to come and help you guys. It's an advantage that I did not have. And so take advantage of it, because I think it's something that's really valuable to you in the earlier stages of your business. Get the facts up front, though. If I could go back, I would like someone to just say, this is what's going to happen. But the thing that I would most like, I believe, that would help most of you guys here today, is you guys have got to figure out what your purpose is. Now, I'm saying that as a young entrepreneur, still, because I'm not 70 years old here, but as a young 23-year-old entrepreneur, I wish I would have had a purpose in what I was doing. When I sat in class like you guys are today and coming up with my first idea with my roommates and my ex-companions, at the end of the day, I had one thing in mind and one thing only, and that was success. I want to start a business to be able to put on my lapel that I started it, I funded it, I grew it, and I sold it. All for what reason? Success. And not anybody up here that has had success can say that at one point in time during their entrepreneurship run, did they not think, I'm doing this for fame, fortune, and maybe some limelight? So at the end of the day, find a purpose, because that one does not stick. I can tell you that once you hit that level where you make the money or you have the spotlight, that comes and goes. But the one thing that doesn't go is the purpose that you have and why you're doing it. Find a purpose. I wish I would have done that earlier in my career, because I did not. One of the things I want to talk to you guys also about is the fallacies of entrepreneurship. And these are the things just to warn you about, and then we're going to get into some other stuff completely off topic here. But there's fallacies in entrepreneurship too, that if you sit here and look at yourself or your own endeavor, you cannot make it alone on the hard work fallacy. This is that if I work really, really hard, I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur. That's what I thought. To be honest with you, I thought that multiple times in my career. Well, you know what? If it gets hard, I'll just work really hard, and it's going to overcome some of my shortcomings, and I'm going to get there. That could be true sometimes, but for the most part, that is not true. So don't ever fall into that fallacy right there. The smarts fallacy, thinking that general intelligence translates into specific goals too. I guarantee all of you guys in here are probably smarter than me. You guys could probably completely own me if I were to come in here and sit with class with you guys. But at the end of the day, smarts does not get you all the way there either. So don't fall into, well, I'm smart enough, I'll just figure it out. The magnification fallacy, assuming that your particular talent is somehow more special than your peers. What you know and what you do is better than everybody else. Don't fall into that one either. And the last two that are very easy to know is the passion. I have such a passion here, it's going to work. And then the last one that I've seen firsthand, which I'm going to give you a quick experience real quick, is convincing yourself that success is yours. You're destined to have success. I remember sitting here south of campus in a condo with my ex-companion and a good friend of his, which was his roommate. There was three of us. We were starting our first tech company. We were students. And I remember my one partner was sitting there in the sofa, had his arm around his girlfriend, and he just said, "Oh man, we're going to be millionaires." I remember like he said that yesterday. And I looked at him like, what are you talking about? We have an idea, we have no money, and we haven't even started anything yet he had already thought, I am destined to be successful here. And I'll tell you right now, what happened with him is 8 months later, after walking around town with a briefcase full of business checks of ours from our $250,000 we raised and spending it on cars and audio equipment, he in his mind had already arrived, and he spent all of our money. And 8 months later, we had to rebuild the business, eject him from the business, and start over. So you've got to be aware that you cannot fall into that too quick, because it takes a lot of work. And that's what we're going to go through right now. My history was this first company that I was talking about is Capture Quest. I'm going to give you just a real quick snippet of my past so you guys understand the roadblocks that I've hit and what I've done, so you understand at the end what I tell you comes from some experience. I started Capture Quest, and that was the first business I was talking to you about. We had a good run. It was pre-dot-com bubble burst. Does anybody know when the bubble burst the first time? 2001? Yeah, it's right around in that time. It was a dark time. It was kind of prolonged, not like this last crash that we went through, but there was a bubble and it burst. I built this prior to that because I founded it in 1998. This is when things were really starting to bubble up, getting very, very excited. In fact, I had a lot of people that I sold my technology to that had been funded $50, $100 million in private equity and VC capital money. And they had no product, no revenue, and they were just operating off of phantomware. So this was a very interesting time. We actually had profits. We actually had sales. And prior to the bubble, our valuation of this company was about 10 times more than what we sold it for a few years later on the backside of that bubble bursting. But this company was a huge success in my mind because we survived. We had good technology, and it was technology that lasted through this public merger that we did. I stayed there for a while, but I left very quickly because I'm an entrepreneur. I couldn't be part of the group that had purchased us. So I started another company that was similar to a business that I saw down in New Zealand and Australia called The Wizard. And I started it was called The Money Wizard. It was a financial software also. And just quickly on that, I sold it to one of my clients out in Michigan, literally 16 months later for a nice sum. So I took it. It was a bird in the hand. Quickly started my next company called Access Point. It was founded and built in Thanksgiving Point. We had an office in Atlanta and also Seattle. And this was one of the ones that was kind of my pride and joy. At the top, we had about 104 employees, about 30 salespeople across the nation. And we were selling a software to home builders, high-rise tower developers like Don Trump. That's an interesting story, but not for this meeting. But at the end of the day, people that were using the software that we had developed for their high-end and developments. It was a very, very cool technology. But the crazy thing about this one also is that it was a timing game. Just like Capture Quest, this company right here was built at the time where Armageddon, is what I call it, hit. The construction industry collapsed, the financial industry collapsed. That was right in the 2007-2008 arena. We literally had 3,000 builders nationwide, and within 3 months we were calling people and it was silent. They just shut their doors and walked home. It was a crazy time in the economy and it hurt us, but we were smart about it. We scaled down quickly, we shut down offices, we controlled costs, we had money in the bank, we survived it, and we ended up selling it in 2009 still. So there's a way to react to economical downturn and barriers that are thrown at you if you're always thinking 6 to 12 months ahead, even though that one happened extremely fast. And then the last one here is the 4 Foods Group. I just founded that in 2008. I wanted to change a little bit. And as an entrepreneur, you're going to see that as you kind of go down this arena, sometimes you can get stuck in that arena, which mine was technology. But I saw an opportunity with food, and we're going to talk about that now. As you can see, though, with each of these right here, I did VC, we did private financing, we did private equity financing of $23 million in this one. In this one, we've done private financing, personal financing, and bank financing in excess of $58 million to do this so far. Huge capital in the restaurant business to do restaurants. That's why people might call it the riskiest business to get into. But it has been a huge feat for us to get this thing off the ground, and finally we're gaining some traction, which we're going to talk about now. A little over 1,100 employees. We add about 70 employees a month right now, and no, we're not for sale. This is the market that I played in. So if anybody can look at that and say that there's a surety in the market fluctuations, you're crazy. It's nuts how bad and how volatile the market is. And so what's the best time to start a business? If you were to look at this, what's the best time? Is it right here? No, probably right here. Well, guess where I started my first business? Right there. And then this is the next one. That was the next one. And then I started 4 Foods Group here. Now, if you look at the success that we've had with each of those businesses, we made success out of it. There is no right time to start a business. I think there's opportune times in any time of the market. So don't get, you know what, maybe we should just wait a little bit because maybe it'll be a better time in a year. That might be for some market segments, but just so you know, you can start a business at any time. It can be successful. It just depends on how you want to navigate the waters. So why did we start 4 Foods Group? When there's a recession, what does that breed? Breeds an opportunity for job growth and opportunity, right? There's a lot of people that have high net worths that was the time that they went around and started gobbling up as much as they could. Well, for me, I saw an opportunity to provide jobs. So fast forwarding a little bit in my presentation for you guys to know, my goal and my entrepreneurial quest now is to create jobs. I think it's necessary, I think it's needed, and it instills growth in the economy. So that's my purpose now. So new jobs and new growth. But as I looked at the market, I thought about what market is recession-proof. If I were to ask all of you guys right now, what is a recession-proof business or occupation, what is it? Mortuary, very good. What else? Healthcare. Your doctor's never going to take off because the recession's hit, right? What else? What about every April 15th? What do you need done? Taxes. So if you want to be a CPA and sit in an office cubicle, I'm not saying anybody that wants to do that, that's a bad thing. But if you want to do that, you're always going to be needed, that's for sure. I always need my CPA no matter what the situation is. So I looked at the market and I thought, what's a recession-proof business? The one that we actually found was food. The F&B industry also is extremely recession-proof if you're in the right segment within the market. So we decided food. I'm a big foodie. I was raised in Chicago. I love to eat out. Who here hates food? Who here eats food every day? Okay, so it's a pretty good market, right? So we like the food and beverage industry. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to take apart the market. Before you jump into something, you got to get some facts, remember? So restaurant industry in a nutshell. Who knew that there were 4 industries within the restaurant industry? Okay, so the different industries right here that we have are fine dining, casual dining, fast casual, and QSR. What does QSR stand for? Quick serve restaurant, fast food. So the market segment's called QSR. What happens in a recession when you look at the restaurant industry as a whole? In a recession, your dollars start to creep down. Okay, so if you're going to fine dining restaurants, which I like, if things are getting a little tight, what do people start doing? Well, they start not spending money at fine dining and they start going to more casual, or maybe even fast casual dining establishments. If you're going to fast casual, you work, an hourly job, you don't have as much money to stretch because of the recession, so you're going to start going more fast food. So the market starts pushing that money downward. What happens when growth happens? Well, the opposite. The money starts flowing up. Do you see that? So the market right now is doing better, so guess what's actually starting on the uptick right now? Casual dining and fine dining. People are starting to go back to those establishments when in a recession, fine and casual start to kind of tank. So from us, and our target, we looked at it and said in times of being down in a recession or times of growth, the fast casual market was the one that we felt was the best bet. So okay, that's the segment we wanted to go after. Now which industry? Of the 600,000 restaurants in America, 200,000 of them are hamburger joints. Who says people don't like hamburgers? Those greasy bombs. Everybody loves them. In fact, you have a McDonald's right here, you have a Wendy's right here, you have a Burger King here, In-N-Out, Smash Burger. I mean, you have so many burger joints, and they're all full. So we like our burgers. 44,000 are Mexican restaurants, and that's growing probably faster than any segment right now. Pizza, who doesn't like pizza in here? Everybody eats pizza. It's a pizza world, and that's growing as well. The smallest segment, and there's many other segments, there's Asian as well. The smallest segment is bakery and cafe. So immediately we looked at that and thought, you know what, that's the market we want to go after. It's less saturated, we don't have as much competition, and there's room to grow. So that's the one we decided to go on. With that, since we're Utahns, we decided to go after the one that had the most potential. We felt that Kneaders had really stood amongst the rest because they had started with some differentiators. There were several different providers out there like Paradise, Panera, Corner Bakery, and others here nationally, but a lot of them had not come to Utah yet. So we thought, if Kneaders already has an established brand here, let's build a nucleus off of that nucleus and let's really grow fast. So we selected Kneaders. It was founded in 1997, so far beyond my day. That was literally before I started my first company, it was founded. It was founded by Gary and Colleen Worthington. They still are the founders. They live in Linden, Utah, and are also entrepreneurs. They were original Subway franchisees, built a dozen of them, sold them off. It took about 2 to 3 years traveling Europe and coming up with this concept, which is now the Kneaders Bakery and Cafe concept. It was started as a family-owned business, and then short years after, they started franchising. Their first store was up on State Street in Orem. That's still the original right there. They just barely, in December, built a huge flagship store. I recommend you guys go and see it. It's a beautiful, killer store right next to this one. So this one is actually kind of more of a museum, I guess. In 2008, when we approached them, there was only 6 units in the brand, with a couple others being built. And we structured a relationship, my wife and I, with them to build 76 Kneaders over a 4-state territory, and we have an exclusive relationship with them. When we created 4 Foods Group, we created it with a one intent in mind, and that is to take existing brands that were due for some growth and to help them grow, because we knew how to do that. So how do we do it? In a recession, there's a lack of what? There's no money out there. So as far as us being excited, we left that office. We were giving each other a high five. I was, of course, smacking Herb down here. And we left and we said, we have 76 restaurants to build. And how much money do we need for each restaurant? About $2.5 million. So you guys do the math. It's just no money. And we had about a $150 million problem. All right? At the time of a recession, there's no money flowing. There's no money lending. There's no private money, because private guys have lost their shorts. They don't know what to do. And everyone is a skeptic in a recession. Why? Because you have the high-end companies even that could do no wrong. Those guys are going out of business. Those guys are claiming, restructuring. And so if you look at this right here, this is a real problem. But instead of addressing this problem, I had to figure out how I was going to conquer the real problem, which is I needed $1 million for land. I needed $900,000 to build a building, and I needed $600,000 for my furniture, fixture, and equipment package. Now, in every restaurant, this right here is a dilemma that every restaurant brand has, especially if you build a freestanding building with a drive-thru on it. This is the problem everybody has, is it's very capitally intensive. So I had to tackle this problem, and I'm going to tell you guys how I tackled it and how we've done it to this day. But this right here is the exact example of being an entrepreneur. I dove in head first after being an entrepreneur for 11 years, and I would feel like I had okay success, and I still dove in without getting all the facts. I structured a deal, and I didn't even know how I was going to do it. But let's go backwards a second and figure out what I really had to figure out, and that is, how in the heck was my wife and I and our team going to build and develop 76 restaurants and run them? How in the heck am I going to do that? Because if you guys all know one thing or another about an entrepreneur, there's a different mindset when you wake up in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I feel the responsibility and the weight of my employees, of my business, of making the right decisions, of pushing it forward. And I wanted every one of my restaurants to feel the same exact way. I wanted for the person that woke up in the morning to go run that restaurant to be an entrepreneur with me. So that was part of my structure. And that's part of the reason why I have been actually asked to share our model multiple times to even some national brands, because they can't figure out how to grow with year-over-year sales increases like we have. If you look at the franchise landscape, and this is just going to help you guys in general more than anything, you have to think about the people that have money to actually do a franchise. If you look at this one right here, 68% of people out there that want to do a franchise have about 15 grand or could get access to 15 grand to put into a franchise. The rest they would have to borrow from a bank or other. Well, there's no banks lending. So these guys right here don't have very many opportunities for franchises, especially in the restaurant business, because there's a lot of money required. 21% have 50,000 or more, 9% 100,000 or more. The upper echelon of that pyramid right there, 2% of people have 150,000, if not millions, to put into a franchise. The problem is that this group right here, 9, 21, and 68%, so 98% of people out there, really are the guys that are going to be the day-to-day guys, right? They're the ones that are going to operate the business on a daily basis. The guys at the top are usually high net worth individuals. I don't think you're going to catch them in a restaurant baking bread. They're just not going to do it. But they want to be a part of it. So in my mind, I thought, if there was a way that I could get these two guys to bridge together and work together, well, then there's something there. There's access to money there, right? So that's what I did. I came up with a creative financing package 5 years ago, and I'm going to tell you the results of that. If I were to break down what I needed for this business, and I would say any business that you guys are going to run, one of the options to put together that financing package right there is, of course, the bank, right? The problem with the bank is that I went and sat down with a banker that I have used for 11 years, and I said, Mr. Banker, I need $2.5 million. Better yet, I just need to get financing for my FF&E, my fixtures, furniture, and equipment, 600 grand. And he said, okay, we would love to help you, Andrew. They said, what is it for? I said, a restaurant. Well, after he picks himself up from falling off his chair because they hate restaurants, he said, well, fine, we'll help you out, Andrew. It's 70-30. I said, perfect, 70-30. He goes, no. 70 you, 30 us. I'm like, what in the world? You're a bank. You're supposed to lend money. And he's like, that's just how it works. It's a ratio issue for a bank. We just got beat up. Our portfolios lost money. And so during the recessionary times, it's the best I can do. So I had this huge delta that I had to fix right here. The next problem I had, and everyone had to grow, and that's why there was kind of the thwart in growth of a lot of these different brands out there, is land. No one was selling land because they were underwater. And the other thing is I couldn't finance it anyway. But you had an individual where if you had purchased $10 million worth of land, you were making no money because nothing's on it. So then I went to him and I said, you put your land up as collateral to the bank and give me $900,000. You give me the $900,000, I'm going to build the building. You're going to start generating cash off of your land. It's a win-win. I'll sign a 10-year lease. And guess what? They bought it. Heck yeah, we want cash being generated off of our land. We want to have it developed, and we want you to do it. We love Kneaders. We want a Kneaders on our land. So that worked. They actually put up the land. They gave me the money, and I started building restaurants. To fill in that gap, we put in personal investment in this, but we also had an investor group of the top 2% echelon where they wanted to be part of this growth strategy, but they did not want to be in there running it. Individuals that are our investors are local businessmen, ones that would never be caught dead in the back of a Kneaders baking the bread, but they sure love telling everybody that they're a part of it. And I knew that. I knew that there was some pride in being part of something that was growing. And so I got those investors to put private funds up, and those private funds then started filling in the gaps that we had. And last but not least, we needed operators. But the operators that we wanted were people just like you guys that were entrepreneurs, that wanted an opportunity, that could not come up with $2.5 million. We gave them the structure and the financing. We asked them to come in with a little bit of sweat equity and a little bit of cash that they could come up with on their own, or we would lend it to them, and they got equity in the business. Now, they're not just a manager now. Any one of our restaurants that you walk into, you can see my partner, and you can see that he's the business owner because they carry themselves differently. And with that model, I never fear waking up in the morning and getting a call from my manager saying, hey, I'm out of here. This business sucks. This is too hard. They're going to be there because it's their business too. And that's what's benefited us. And has it worked? Yeah, it's really worked. We continue to build them one after another, after another, after another, under that same exact model that I built 5.5 years ago. Now, changes to that model. What happens once you gain traction? Same exact model, but guess what the bank's done now? As we have attracted well, we've performed, we've made money, what do banks and everybody that have money start doing? Take my money. Take my money and take it for cheaper. Please take my money so I can tell all my friends and tell all the other banks that we have your business. So when you guys want to take the plunge, don't take it personal that people go, nah, I'm not going to take the plunge with you. You're too risky. Because as soon as you're the hot girl at the party, girls, you guys all know how it is when you're the hot girl at the party. Everybody wants to talk to you then. So at the end of the day, you want to be the hot girl at the party when it comes to business performance. The banks started lending us 70%, and we even have banks lending us 80% now, which means our delta is much easier to do. We started a development company where we house all of our construction and development all in-house now. And by doing that, we buy the land, we are our own developers, we are our own owners, we're our own landlords. So we've taken control of that. We've also started our own finance company where we're financing our own businesses now as our own notes, where we're making money on our money. And last but not least, we have kept the model to have an operator partner, have skin in the game. We give them some equity for that skin in the game. Even though what they put up is a mere 4% of what is required to do this, we give them a substantial part of our business because we believe that that's the secret sauce to our business. And we'll always do it that way. So that's how we've done it over the last 5 years, where we've transitioned to and why we're really going through hypergrowth now. 5 years later, we've added 20 restaurants with an additional 12 in development. This is the Phoenix market. And when you look at a market, the way you do it is you figure out what's your circle of influence for each store and how close can you put them and what are your demographics and where do you go next. This market right here, we have 4 stores open and we're building about 8 more right now. And that's just the Phoenix market. We're doing the same in Colorado and Nevada. The bottom line, though, is the model has worked. Coming to a close here, we look at where we've come and where we're going right now, and there's a couple things that are very unique and interesting about entrepreneurship and how it grows as you go. But before I end on that, I want to talk to you about the most important things that have been crucial to our success and to any success of any of the businesses I've owned. There is not enough said, because it's underestimated, about the power of momentum. Once you guys start and you guys feel like you're actually getting traction, traction is a good thing. But momentum is worth millions and millions of dollars to your company. Literally, you have to gain it and you have to keep it. And sometimes to keep momentum, it's very costly and it gets harder and harder. Because the bigger you get, the harder it is to grow at that pace. For instance, on Inc. 500, which many of you guys probably read the Inc. magazine, we've been featured in that a couple years in the running. But to see those companies that are in there that have done it 5 years in a row, they're in the 5-year club, that is really, really hard, and I applaud those companies because to grow at that pace and consistently at that pace is hard. It's very hard. So once you've got it, you keep it. Because of that, your brand, doesn't matter if it's a tech company, if it's a physician's facility, or if it's a restaurant, it doesn't matter what it is, momentum is your friend, and you want to keep it at all costs. Economic stabilization has been a good thing for us. As things start to stabilize, all businesses will reap benefits from that. Make sure that as things stabilize, you have a plan to take advantage of that. One would be financing rates. As a business, you take on money from investors at times. Try to refinance them out of there and get them a cheaper rate. You do that, and you start to free up a lot of that cash flow within your business. So make sure you take care of your business when things are good. When things are bad, it's going to be more costly to be in business, but that's just the nature of business. And of course, the fast casual market. The fast casual market, which is what we're in, We're not a fast food restaurant. Fast casual is more like the Noodles and Company and the Cafe Rios and the Kneaders and the Zupas and all these other guys. Those companies are in the segment really that is skyrocketing and that has lent itself to huge growth for our company. Secrets to making investors happy. I'm going to tell you this because I'm an investor in multiple businesses right now, and I'm going to tell you that this is how I want to be treated. But I also want to tell you guys that I have lived my life as an entrepreneur doing two things, and they're very simple, but it is incredible to me how bad entrepreneurs are at this. So make sure you all write this down because it's really simple. Number one, deliver information often. And when I say often, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. And one thing that I was going to grab on the way out of my office today was my quarterly report. It's 7 pages long, that's all. But I send that out to my investors, and guess what I get in response? I get the CEO of Newskin saying, I am so happy to be a part of your business. Thank you for the report. All he wants to know is that his investment is sound. You have got to deliver that information often. Don't wait. If you have an investor call you, and I were to call you and say, how are we doing? Is everything going okay over there? You've failed your job as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry you have, because that investor is not going to give you more money. So deliver information often, okay? And when you deliver it, it goes hand in hand. Give the good with the bad. The bad is not bad. The bad can actually be good. Because when I say to an investor, listen, we, in my business, for instance, we missed our mark on opening up 3 restaurants this quarter. We got 2. The third's going to open up next quarter, and the reason being is the city inspectors delayed our certificate of occupancy on our building, and this is what we're going to do to fix it the next time so that does not happen, so we miss projection. If I say that, I turn it into a good because I told them that I'm in control of it, I know why, and what I'm going to do to fix it. You can instill confidence in your investors if you tell them the bad with the good. We missed beta launch on our technology. We were a month late. This is why. The next beta launch, we're going to be a month early, and this is what I'm going to do about it. You make sure you tell the investor what you're going to do about the bad, but give the good with the bad. Those are the two things. What you don't want is your investor to get a text and say, hey, we overspent by $1 million. Can you invest? And he hadn't heard anything from you. So make sure that you guys always communicate and communicate a lot. That's going to be a huge thing for your success. And that's even with bankers. I tell the banks what we're doing. They don't care. They're probably the most unemotional people in the world, but if you create a relationship with them, your bank can be your best friend. Keys to success. Chase, when you sent me the thing, you said, we have to inspire. Let me give you some inspiration, and I'm going to just spend 2 minutes on this, and we'll be done so you guys don't fall asleep. The keys to success for everybody are different, and you're going to have different entrepreneurs come in here and say, this is what happened to us for us to be successful. The difference between many companies that I've seen that have failed here in the community and around the nation, around the world, and those that have succeeded is a stroke of luck. There's no difference between the guy that sold his business for $1 billion or the idiots that turned down a $3 billion offer from Zuckerberg, morons. But the bottom line, though, is there's no difference. There is a stroke of luck with perseverance. And an entrepreneur's job is just to persevere to the next step of the business, and sometimes you might hit that stroke of good luck. But at the end of the day, there's a couple things that are musts in being an entrepreneur. And I've learned this the hard way on many of these, and that is performance. I cannot tell you how important it is for me as an investor, and for investors looking at me and my business as well, to not perform. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Because if you do it, you have so much more power in what you say, what you need, and what you demand for your business with all those that are the influencers around you. Next, build the right team. Now, when I say build the right team, you guys probably think about it. You probably think about the people you're going to get together with your business. Don't just get your best friends. I realized that getting my best friends wasn't the best thing to do. Get the right people on your team. Get the people that have the crucial component to put together in that puzzle piece. So that as you're running as a business, and I do my job, and then I hand it off to the next division or the next department, they can take it and walk with it perfectly, so they can do their job as well. If you don't get the right team, it's going to thwart your ability to grow. And I can tell you that from experience. I had the wrong teams. I learned the hard way. We almost went out of business. I rebuilt my team. I had the right team, and we prevailed. Build the right team, right from the get-go. Integrity. I know that this is a word that you all are going to say, well, of course. Integrity, I'm an honest guy. I'm an honest girl. I'm going to be a businessman that's honest. You will be challenged with your integrity. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because I have helped local businessmen unravel situations they got themselves into because they made the wrong call. You have got to have integrity in everything that you do in business ownership. You have to make a decision and think, in 10 years from now, how am I going to feel when I think about the decision I made today about this pretty monumental deal with our business? Can I sleep at night 10 years from now knowing that I did the right thing? There's white and black. There's no gray and there's no black decisions. You make the right decision every time. And I've been challenged with this in my career before where you're like, no, I think this is the right thing. But if I thought through it a little bit more, I'm like, well, I'm going to totally screw that person. I can't do that. That person was devout to us. And that's why I think that loyalty both ways is probably one of the most important ones too. When you have someone that's loyal to you, what does that mean? Let me give you a really quick snippet example of what that means. And many of you are going to find yourselves in this position. And I'm telling you right now, as the business owner and the CEO having to deal with this, it's very difficult, it's very hard, and it's very emotionally draining. And that is that you have a bunch of you guys sitting in a room, office doors closed, and the discussion goes something like this. Oh, that was the wrong decision. Why are we doing it this way? He's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe we should go. And it just starts to fester. And when that festers, I call it the black plague issue within an office because you can't control it. It just starts to get out. Loyalty is the person in the room that says, no, we're going to go and we're going to rally together, we're going to work together, and we're going to solve this problem and come up with a solution together. And we're going to work as a team. That's loyalty. For me as the business owner and the CEO, you guys as future business owners, you have got to look at that situation and say, those are the people that I have to be loyal to because they were loyal back. And there are very few loyal people in your group. Try to make them all loyal, and you'll have an amazing company. Last but not least, have a purpose. And I'm going to end on this. When I say have a purpose, I truly mean have a purpose. Do it for another reason than the money. Because the money will come, and you'll be like, great, now I have the money, now what? It's anticlimactic more than you would ever know. Have a purpose. Like I told you at the beginning of mine, and this does not have to be your purpose. I'm just telling you that this is my purpose. My purpose is jobs and opportunity. And when you look at my partners, Ben and Scylla Toa, that just opened up the Gilbert Kneaders down in Gilbert, Arizona, she came to me as an $8.50 employee. She was getting paid $8.50. She was one of our cashiers, and she said, Andrew, I know I can do this. Give me an opportunity. I said, well, that's great, but I don't want to have you just have the passion or the hard work fallacy going on in your mind that, hey, it's just going to be easy, so let's see if you really mean it. So we put them through a process to see if they really mean it. And within 2 years, she'd been an assistant manager, a manager. She ran one of our busiest stores up at City Creek, up in Salt Lake. She proved to us that she earned this opportunity, and now she is a business owner with us down in Gilbert. It's one of the highest grossing stores, and she went from making $8.50 an hour to making well into six figures for her and her husband. The bottom line is that you have to find a purpose, because this is right here what's more important to me, not what I deposit in my bank every month. Do it for a purpose, and you guys will see that the money will come. And last but not least, go for it. Just do it. You're never going to learn listening to me, so just go out and do it. Thanks for having me.